I stood there holding the phone, but I did not say a word. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the phone steady. The man on the other end had introduced himself as Michael Chun. He said he had found my number in an old business directory. His voice sounded careful, almost nervous, like he was choosing every word slowly. "Mr. Walker," he said quietly, "I hate to be the one telling you this, but that financial advisor your son brought over, the one named Brandon Carter, he is not who he claims to be. You need to be very careful." My heart started beating harder. Michael continued, speaking slowly and seriously. "Do not sign anything he puts in front of you. And please, do not tell your son that I called. I just wanted to warn you. Be careful." Before I could even ask what he meant, the call ended. Just like that. I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, the phone still pressed against my ear, staring at the calendar hanging on the wall. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since Melissa's funeral. 3 weeks since I buried the woman who had been my wife for 42 years. And now some stranger was calling me to say that my own son might be putting me in danger. My name is Thomas Walker. I am 68 years old. I spent most of my life working as a mechanical engineer before retiring. Up until about 3 months ago, I believed my life was simple and settled. Melissa and I had built a good life together in Portland, Oregon. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. We owned our home outright. We had savings, retirement accounts, and a plan for the future. Our son Kevin lived about 20 minutes away with his wife Ashley. We were not wealthy people, but we were doing all right. Our house was paid off and worth around $600,000 in the current market. We had roughly $400,000 saved in retirement accounts and about $100,000 in cash savings. It was enough for us to live comfortably, take a few trips now and then, and maybe help our future grandchildren with college someday. Then Melissa got sick. Pancreatic cancer. From the day we heard the diagnosis to the day she died, only 6 weeks passed. Even now, I still had trouble believing she was really gone. Kevin had been very attentive during that time. Maybe a little too attentive. At first, I was thankful. After Melissa died, I felt like I was walking through thick fog. Everything felt heavy and slow. Even simple things were difficult. Getting out of bed in the morning, making coffee, remembering to eat. The house felt huge and painfully empty without her. Her reading glasses still rested on the nightstand beside the bed. Her gardening gloves were still sitting by the back door. I could not bring myself to move any of it. Kevin started stopping by every day. "Just checking on you, Dad," he would say. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he cooked dinner. Other times he helped sort through bills and paperwork. Melissa had always handled most of those things. I could design complex mechanical systems or solve manufacturing problems without breaking a sweat. But Melissa was the one who remembered when the electric bill was due. About 2 weeks after the funeral, Kevin showed up with someone I had never met. "Dad, this is Brandon Carter," Kevin said. "He is a financial advisor I know through work. I thought maybe he could help you organize everything. You know, Mom's accounts and all that, just to make sure everything is set up properly for the future." Brandon looked to be in his early 40s. He wore expensive-looking glasses and shook my hand with a firm, confident grip. His suit probably cost more than I usually spend on groceries in a month. He spoke with the kind of smooth confidence that professional salesmen always seem to have. "Mr. Walker," he said respectfully, "I am very sorry for your loss." He said it with just the right tone. Serious, but not overly dramatic. We sat down at my kitchen table while he opened a leather folder full of documents. "I know this is a very difficult time for you," he continued, "but it is extremely important that we make sure your assets are properly protected. At your age, you really need someone helping you manage important financial decisions." At your age? Something about that phrase rubbed me the wrong way. But I was exhausted and grieving, and I did not have the energy to argue. During the next week, Brandon came back 3 more times. Kevin was always with him. They asked me a lot of questions. "Dad, have you been forgetting things lately?" Kevin asked one afternoon. "Like where you put your keys?" Brandon added. "Or what day of the week it is?" Kevin said. Sometimes Kevin and Brandon exchanged worried looks. Kevin even said, "Yesterday Dad forgot that he already took his blood pressure medicine. He took it twice." Then he added, "And last week he left the stove turned on." That part was not true. I was certain of it. But Kevin said it with such confidence and with so much concern in his voice that it made me start doubting myself. Had I left the stove on? Was my memory starting to slip? Melissa used to joke that I would forget my own head if it was not attached to my shoulders. Maybe those jokes were not jokes anymore. Eventually, Brandon began talking about something called power of attorney. It is only a precaution, Mr. Walker, he explained calmly. If something unexpected happens, if you get sick or end up in the hospital, your son would be able to step in and manage your finances. He spread several documents across the table. Professional-looking papers, legal language, official letterheads, just a few signatures, he said. Then everything will be set up properly. But something inside me hesitated. Maybe it was the engineer in me. For decades, I had built my career on checking numbers, double-checking designs, and testing every assumption before trusting it. Nothing about this situation felt properly tested. Everything felt rushed. Why were they pushing this so quickly? Why did Brandon keep insisting we needed to do it right away? I told them I wanted time to think. I said I wanted to speak with my own lawyer first. For a split second, Kevin's expression changed. Something cold flashed in his eyes. But then he smiled again. Of course, Dad, he said. Take all the time you need. We just want to make sure you are protected. After they left, I noticed something strange. Brandon had accidentally left some papers behind on the kitchen table. They were copies of the forms he had brought. Out of curiosity, I looked at them. There were several checkboxes about mental ability, questions about memory problems, confusion, difficulty managing finances independently. Every single box had already been checked. Yes, 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 but I had never filled out those forms. I had never checked those boxes. That was when the strange phone calls began. Brandon started calling me in the evenings. Just checking on you, Mr. Walker, he would say. Then he would start asking questions. How are you feeling tonight? Any confusion today? Have you had trouble remembering things? The questions felt strange. Almost like he was testing me. Like he was collecting information. Like he was building some kind of record. Then Michael Chun called with his warning. I did not know what to make of it. So I tried looking up Brandon Carter online. I found a website that looked professional enough. It listed him as a licensed financial advisor. There were smiling photos and written testimonials from supposed clients. But when I looked closer, I noticed something odd. The website had only been created 6 months earlier, and the business address listed on the site turned out to be nothing more than a mailbox inside a United Parcel Service store. After that, I started paying closer attention. The next day when Kevin came over, I watched him carefully. Really watched him. Hey, Dad, he said, letting himself inside using the spare key I had given him. How are you feeling today? I am doing fine, I said. Actually, I feel pretty clear-headed today. For just a moment, I thought I saw disappointment flash across his face. Well, he said slowly, that is good. Because Ashley told me that when she called you yesterday, you sounded a little confused about what day it was. Ashley did not call yesterday, I said carefully. Kevin frowned. She did, Dad. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You really do not remember? I was absolutely certain she had not called. I had spent the whole afternoon in the garage, sorting through Melissa's gardening tools. The phone never rang. Not once. But Kevin sounded completely confident. He pulled out his phone and showed me the call log. There it was. A 3-minute call to my number. Time stamped at 3:17 in the afternoon. Yesterday. Maybe I did not hear the phone ring, I said slowly. Kevin nodded with a worried expression. Maybe we should check your hearing too, he said. Things like this can add up, Dad. Memory issues, not hearing the phone. He shook his head. Brandon was saying that sometimes these are early warning signs. After Kevin left, I went and checked my own phone. When I checked my phone, there were no missed calls from Ashley. Nothing in the call log. Nothing in the recent calls list. So how in the world did Kevin's phone show that she had called me? I decided to call Ashley myself. Hey, Ashley, I said when she answered. Did you try calling me yesterday? Yesterday, she asked. No. Why? Kevin said you called around 3 in the afternoon. There was a short pause. No, she said. I was in meetings all afternoon yesterday. My phone was on silent the whole time. I definitely did not call you. All right, I said. Thanks, honey. After we hung up, I sat down in my recliner and stared at the wall. That was when the thought hit me. Kevin had somehow faked the call log. He had shown it to me to make me doubt my own memory, to make me question whether I was losing track of things, to create the impression that I was confused, forgetful, maybe even mentally declining. But why? Then everything started fitting together in my head. The forms Brandon had left behind. All those boxes already checked about cognitive decline. The strange phone calls where he kept asking if I felt confused. Michael Chen's warning. And Brandon pushing so hard for power of attorney. Suddenly it all made sense. They were building a case that I was mentally incompetent. Once that happened, they could take control of everything. My bank accounts. My retirement funds. My house. Everything Melissa and I had spent 45 years working for. My own son was trying to steal my life savings. The realization made my stomach twist. I went into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up at the mirror, I saw a man who looked older than I remembered. Gray hair, tired eyes, deep lines around my mouth that Melissa used to trace with her finger when we were sitting together on the couch. But my eyes were still sharp, and my mind was still working. I needed help, but I also knew one thing for certain. I could not let Kevin realize that I suspected anything. If I confronted him too early, he would change his plan, or move faster. I needed proof, real evidence, and I needed someone on my side. So I called an old friend of mine, Carlos Ramirez. We had worked together for about 20 years before he retired and moved up to Tacoma, Washington. Carlos had always been a skeptical guy, the kind of man who questioned everything. Right now, that was exactly the kind of thinking I needed. "Tom," he said when he answered. "How are you holding up?" His voice sounded warm and familiar. "I need your advice," I said. "Something strange is happening." Then I told him everything. Michael Chen's warning, Brandon's pressure about the paperwork, the fake phone call, the forms with the boxes already checked. Carlos stayed quiet for a long time after I finished. Finally, he said, "Good grief, Tom. That sounds like elder financial abuse. Classic pattern." My chest tightened. "They are gaslighting you," he continued. "They are building a false story that you are mentally incompetent. Once they convince a court that you cannot manage your own affairs, they can take control of everything." "How much money are we talking about?" he asked. "About $1 million altogether," I said. He let out a low whistle. "Okay," he said firmly. "Listen carefully. First thing, do not sign anything. Second, you need a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Someone who specializes in elder law and financial exploitation. Third, start documenting everything. Every conversation. Every visit. Every bit of pressure they apply. Get a notebook. Write down dates and times. Treat it like a record. Fourth, lock down your bank accounts immediately. Call your bank. Put alerts on everything. Change every password you have." "Can you do that?" "Yes," I said. "I can do that." "And Tom," he added, "play along with them." "What do you mean?" "Act like you are considering their plan. If they realize you are suspicious, they will change tactics. That will make them harder to catch." Then he chuckled a little. "You spent 40 years as an engineer, right?" "Right. So treat this like a technical problem. Gather data. Study the situation. Then solve it." That actually helped me calm down. An engineering problem. That was something I understood. The next morning, I called my bank. "I need to put fraud alerts on all of my accounts," I told the representative. "And I need to know if anyone has been asking about my accounts or running credit checks in my name." She put me on hold while she looked into it. When she came back, her tone sounded more serious. "Mr. Walker, there have been 2 credit inquiries connected to your name during the past 2 weeks." My stomach tightened. "From who?" I asked. "One inquiry came from Northwest Credit Services. The other came from Cascade Investment Group. Also, someone called the bank last week claiming to be your son and asking about your account balances." My heart started pounding. "Did you give them any information?" I asked. "No, sir," she said. "We did not release any details without proper verification. But yes, those inquiries were made." I swallowed hard. "I did not authorize any of that." "I understand, sir," she said. "I will immediately flag all of your accounts for possible fraud. Would you like us to enable 2-factor authentication and require in-person verification for major transactions?" "Yes," I said quickly. "All of it. Every security option you have." After that call, I looked back through my phone history and called Michael Chen again. He answered on the second ring. "Mr. Walker," he said, "you told me Brandon Carter is not who he claims to be." I said, "Tell me everything you know." Michael explained that he had been one of Brandon's victims 2 years earlier. Brandon had convinced him to move his retirement savings into what he described as high-yield investment opportunities. Those investments turned out to be little more than empty shell companies. By the time Michael realized what had happened, he had already lost more than $200,000. Then Brandon disappeared. Later, he resurfaced in another city under a slightly different name. Michael had been trying to track him down ever since. "I have been warning people whenever I find them," he told me. "Does he always work this way?" I asked. "Usually," Michael said, "but he rarely works alone." "What do you mean?" "He partners with a family member," Michael explained. "Often a son or daughter who is having financial problems. They look for elderly targets. Recent widows or widowers are ideal. People who are grieving. People who are emotionally vulnerable. Sometimes the stress makes them seem forgetful or distracted. The family member introduces Brandon, Michael said. They vouch for him. That builds trust. Then the two of them start working together. Gaslighting, pressure, fake concerns about medical issues. The goal, Michael said, is to get power of attorney or some kind of legal control over the victim's finances. Once they have that authority, they drain the accounts. And by the time anyone realizes what happened, they are gone. How do I stop them? I asked. You need evidence, he said. Document everything. Report it to Adult Protective Services and to the police. Then he sighed. But Brandon is slippery. No one has managed to prosecute him yet. By the time victims understand what is happening, the money is gone and the paper trail is difficult to prove. You need to catch them while they are doing it. For the next 2 days, I prepared carefully. Carlos had recommended an attorney named Linda Porter, who specialized in elder law. I met her at her office. She looked to be in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a calm, confident way of speaking. After I explained everything, she nodded. Mr. Walker, what they are attempting is illegal, she said. Financial exploitation of an elderly person. Possibly conspiracy to commit fraud. She tapped her pen lightly on the desk. But we need solid evidence. Recordings would help, she continued. In Oregon, the law allows one-party consent recording. That means you can legally record conversations that you are part of. Document everything. And we need them to clearly state their intentions. How do we do that? I asked. She smiled slightly. We let them think they are winning. Her plan was simple. I would tell Kevin and Brandon that I had decided to sign the power of attorney documents. We would schedule a meeting. Linda would be nearby, hidden from view. We would record the entire conversation. If they are as aggressive as you described, she said, they will eventually say something that reveals their intentions. In the meantime, she added, I am filing paperwork that temporarily freezes changes to your major assets. No accounts or property transfers will happen without court approval. She also contacted Adult Protective Services to start an investigation. Later that afternoon, Kevin called. Hey, Dad, he said. Brandon was hoping to stop by tomorrow to finish the paperwork. Are you feeling up to it? I forced my voice to sound tired and uncertain. I suppose so, I said slowly. I have been thinking about what you said. Maybe you are right. Maybe I do need some help managing things. Kevin sounded pleased. That is great, Dad. Really smart decision. We will come by around 10 in the morning. 10 is fine, I said. After we ended the call, I sat there feeling cold inside. This was my son, the boy I had taught to ride a bicycle, the kid I helped with math homework, the man I proudly watched get married. And now he was trying to take everything from me. I shook my head. No, I could not let myself think that way yet. Not until I had proof. Maybe there was another explanation. Maybe Brandon was manipulating Kevin too. But deep down, I did not really believe that. The next morning, I got ready. Linda had given me a small recording device that looked like an ordinary pen. Keep it in your shirt pocket, she had told me. It will record everything. Keep it in your shirt pocket, Linda had told me. It will pick up everything that is said. She and a detective from the Portland Police Department Financial Crimes Unit, Detective Angela Kim, were waiting in my bedroom. They had a small receiver that was connected to the recording device. From there, they could hear everything happening in the kitchen. Right at 10 o'clock sharp, Kevin and Brandon arrived. Morning, Dad, Kevin said cheerfully as he walked in. He was carrying a box of pastries and 2 cups of coffee from the little bakery Melissa used to love. That detail hit me harder than I expected. He had remembered her favorite place. Thought we'd make this a pleasant morning, he said. Get everything sorted out so you do not have to worry anymore. Brandon sat down at the kitchen table and opened his leather portfolio again, spreading papers across the surface. Mr. Walker, he said smoothly, I am very glad you decided to move forward with this. It is the responsible choice. He slid a thick document toward me. I have prepared a complete financial power of attorney. This document allows Kevin to manage your bank accounts, pay bills, handle investments, and oversee any financial matters that come up. He tapped the page with his finger. It is immediate and durable, he continued, which means it will remain in effect even if you become incapacitated. Even if I become incapacitated, I repeated slowly. Yes, sir, Brandon said with a pleasant smile. That is the advantage. You will not have to worry about anything. Kevin will take care of everything. I looked down at the document. It was packed with dense legal language. I should probably have my lawyer review this first, I said. Kevin and Brandon exchanged a quick glance. Then Kevin leaned forward. Dad, we already talked about that, he said. This is standard paperwork. Any attorney would tell you the same thing. Why waste money on legal fees when Brandon has already taken care of everything? I still think. Kevin's voice grew firmer. Dad, I am going to be honest with you. Ashley and I are worried about you. He sighed and shook his head. You have not been the same since Mom passed away. You are forgetting things. You get confused. He looked at Brandon, then back at me. Yesterday you told me you had not eaten lunch, but there was a sandwich wrapper in the trash. You are not managing well on your own. I am managing fine, I said quietly. Are you? Kevin replied. Then he added something that made my stomach tighten. Because Brandon ran a credit check. I looked up sharply. You ran a credit check on me? Brandon immediately stepped in with his smooth voice. It was just a preliminary financial assessment, Mr. Walker. Standard procedure. And to be honest, there are a few concerns. What concerns? Well, he said, folding his hands. Your credit score has dropped recently, and there are some unusual patterns in your spending. That was a lie. I checked my accounts carefully every week. Everything had been normal. What patterns? I asked. For example, he said casually, there was a $300 charge at an online casino last week. I do not gamble online, I said. I have never used an online casino. Kevin shook his head slowly, pretending to look sad. Dad, you probably just do not remember. That is exactly what we are worried about. Show me, I said. Show you what? Brandon asked. The charge. Show me the record of it. Brandon hesitated for a second. I do not have the detailed statements with me today. Then how do you know about it? I asked. His friendly smile tightened. Mr. Walker, please try to stay calm. Getting upset does not help the situation. This kind of agitation is exactly what concerns us. I forced myself to breathe slowly. I had to keep my voice steady. I would like to see documentation of these charges, I said, and proof that my credit score has dropped. Show me the evidence. For the first time, Brandon's polite mask slipped a little. Sir, he said, I am trying to help you. Your son is trying to help you. But you have to trust us. We only want what is best for you. Then you will not mind if my attorney reviews the documents. I replied. Dad. Kevin snapped, standing up from his chair. Stop being stubborn. This is for your own good. You are not thinking clearly. He glanced at Brandon again. Brandon and I have been talking, he continued. And we think you might need more support than we can provide at home. What does that mean? I asked. Kevin sighed. There are some excellent memory care facilities nearby. Places where professionals can monitor you. They make sure you take your medication and stay safe. And there it was. The real plan. Get power of attorney. Claim I was mentally incompetent. Put me in a facility. Sell the house and drain my accounts. I am not going into any facility, I said quietly. Kevin's expression hardened. That might not be your choice, Dad. If someone is not capable of making safe decisions, the court can appoint a conservator. It would be for your own protection. Is that a threat? I asked. It is reality, he said. Brandon has been documenting your decline. The missed medications. The confusion. The forgetfulness. He folded his arms. We already have evidence. If you refuse to cooperate, we will do what we have to do. Brandon added calmly. Mr. Walker, we already prepared most of the paperwork for a conservatorship petition. You already prepared it? I asked. Before even discussing it with me? It is simply being prepared, Kevin said. He softened his voice. Look, Dad, I know this is difficult, but Mom would want me to take care of you. This is me taking care of you. Do not bring your mother into this, I said. I wanted to shout. Melissa would have been horrified by what he was doing. Instead, I stood up slowly. I need to use the bathroom, I said. Excuse me. I walked toward the bedroom, pretending to move slowly, like I felt dizzy. Behind me, I could hear Kevin and Brandon talking quietly. Inside the bedroom, Linda and Detective Kim were waiting. Linda whispered, that is enough. Threats, coercion, and an admission about the conservatorship paperwork. That is clear financial exploitation and attempted fraud. Detective Kim nodded. We are moving in, she said. Stay calm. It is over. The three of us walked back toward the kitchen. Kevin looked up when we entered. Dad, we need to finish. He stopped when he saw the detective. Kevin, I said quietly. Brandon, I would like you to meet Detective Angela Kim from the Portland Police Department. Kevin's face went completely pale. Brandon immediately started gathering his papers. Nobody move, Detective Kim said calmly, showing her badge. Gentlemen, We need to discuss some very serious allegations. Attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, conspiracy to commit fraud, and identity theft. She nodded toward me. Mr. Walker has been recording this entire conversation. We have heard enough to proceed. This is ridiculous, Kevin said quickly. Dad, what are you doing? We were trying to help you. You were trying to steal from me, I said. My voice shook despite my effort to stay calm. You fabricated evidence that I was mentally declining. You ran unauthorized credit checks. You staged fake phone calls to make me doubt my memory. You planned to declare me incompetent, place me in a facility, and take control of my money. That is not helping me. Detective Kim turned to Brandon. Mr. Carter, she said. Or should I say Brandon Weber? He froze. We have been investigating you, she continued. Your real name is Brandon Weber. You have 3 previous allegations of elder financial fraud in Washington and California. You have been operating under different names for about 5 years. Then she looked at Kevin. And Mr. Kevin Walker, you have been in serious financial trouble for more than a year. Large gambling debts. Several failed business investments. You saw your father as an easy target. Kevin shook his head. I am his son, he said. I have a right to. You have no right to defraud your father, Linda said coldly. She stepped forward. I am Mr. Walker's attorney. We have documented everything. The manipulation, the fabricated evidence, and the threats. All of Mr. Walker's assets have already been legally frozen. You cannot access a single dollar. And we are filing for a restraining order. You are not permitted to contact Mr. Walker or come within 500 feet of his property. Brandon suddenly tried to run. He bolted toward the front door. But the moment he opened it, 2 uniformed police officers who had been waiting outside grabbed him. They arrested him right there in my driveway. Handcuffs. The Miranda warning. The whole thing. 2 officers walked Brandon Weber out of the house while Detective Kim read him his rights. He tried to argue at first, but once the cuffs went on, he stopped talking. Kevin did not move. He just sat there at my kitchen table with his head in his hands. Dad, he said quietly. I am sorry. I am so sorry. His voice sounded broken. I was desperate. The debts, they kept piling up. I did not know what else to do. Brandon told me it would be easy. He said we would just borrow some money and pay it back later. He shook his head. It was not supposed to turn into this. I looked at him for a long moment. You were planning to put me in a care facility, Kevin, I said. You were going to take everything your mother and I spent our whole lives building. The words came out slowly. All the money we saved for emergencies, for retirement, for our grandchildren's education. You were going to steal it. I was going to pay it back, he said weakly. With what? I asked. You do not have anything left. You are $50,000 in debt. My voice hardened. You were going to steal my retirement and leave me with nothing. Detective Kim stepped forward and pulled Kevin's arms behind his back. Kevin Walker, she said calmly. You are under arrest for attempted financial exploitation, conspiracy to commit fraud, and identity theft. As she placed the handcuffs on him, Kevin looked at me with panic in his eyes. Dad, please, he said. Do not let them do this. I am your son. I stared at him. This man sitting in my kitchen looked like the boy I had raised. But in that moment, he felt like a stranger. You stopped being my son, I said quietly. The moment you decided I was worth more to you as a victim than as a father. They let him out of the house and into the police car. The door closed. And just like that, he was gone. Linda and Detective Kim stayed for another hour. They went over everything carefully, making sure the recordings and documents were properly collected as evidence. Detective Kim explained that Adult Protective Services would also be involved. There would be a court case. Both Kevin and Brandon were facing serious criminal charges. She told me that if they were convicted, they could be looking at 3 to 7 years in prison. After they finally left, the house was quiet again. I sat alone at the kitchen table. The coffee Kevin had brought was still sitting there. Cold now. The pastries from Melissa's favorite bakery were still in the bag. Untouched. I picked up the bag, walked over to the trash can, and threw the whole thing away. Then I did something I had not done since Melissa's funeral. I cried. Not quiet tears. I mean the kind of crying that shakes your whole body. I cried for the son I thought I had. I cried for the trust that had been broken. I cried because I had been forced to choose between protecting myself and protecting my own child. And I cried because Melissa was not there to tell me what to do. She had always known how to steady me when life went sideways. But eventually, the tears slowed. Then they stopped. And I realized something. I was still here. Still living in my home. Still in control of my life and my finances. Still capable. Still clear-minded. Still myself. That evening, my friend Carlos Ramirez called. I heard what happened, he said. Are you all right? I do not know, I admitted. But I think I will be. You did the right thing, he told me. Did I? I asked. That was my son. Melissa's son. Carlos was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that stuck with me. That was a criminal who happened to be your son. Those are two different things. You protected yourself. That takes courage. Over the next few weeks, I slowly started rebuilding my life. First, I hired a legitimate financial advisor that Linda personally vetted. Then I updated all my legal documents. My will, my medical directive, my power of attorney. Instead of giving that responsibility to family, I assigned it to Carlos, someone I truly trusted. I also placed my house into an irrevocable trust to protect it. I installed security cameras around the property. I changed every password I had and enabled two-factor authentication on all of my accounts. And I joined a support group for survivors of elder financial abuse. Before that, I had no idea how common this kind of crime was. There were dozens of people in the Portland area alone who had experienced something similar. Some of them had lost everything. Their savings, their homes, their retirement funds. Others, like me, had managed to catch it just in time. We shared our stories. We talked about the warning signs. And I learned that what Kevin and Brandon tried to do to me followed a very familiar pattern. Isolation, gaslighting, false claims of memory problems, fake financial evidence, pressure to sign documents quickly, threats about conservatorship. Every step matched the same playbook used in elder financial exploitation scams. Looking back, there were warning signs I should have noticed sooner. Sudden interest in my finances, pressure to sign legal documents quickly, attempts to isolate me from friends or advisors, claims that I was confused or incompetent, strange paperwork that looked suspicious, unexpected credit inquiries, pushes for power of attorney before it was necessary. If I had known those warning signs earlier, maybe I would have realized what was happening sooner. But grief makes people vulnerable. When you lose someone you love, your judgment gets cloudy, and you want to believe your family would never hurt you. Eventually, both Kevin and Brandon pleaded guilty. Kevin was sentenced to 4 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 2. Brandon received 7 years. The prosecutor later told me that I was lucky. Because the crime was stopped before any money was actually stolen, the sentences were lighter than they might have been otherwise. About a month later, Ashley came to see me. She told me she was leaving Kevin and filing for divorce. She insisted she had no idea what he had been planning. Part of me wanted to believe her, but Linda advised me to keep my distance. Ashley might have been innocent, or she might have been involved. Either way, caution was the safest path. I told her I understood, but I needed space. She cried and apologized. She said she had always considered me family. I told her I would always care about her, but right now I could not trust anyone. She nodded quietly and left. I have not heard from her since. Her parents reached out to me later to apologize for Kevin's actions and offer support. That was kind of them, but I kept them at a distance too. I had learned the hard way that family connections do not automatically guarantee safety. Now, 6 months later, I am doing all right. The house is quieter than I would like. I miss Melissa every single day, and I still mourn the son I thought I had. But I am not a victim. I protected myself. I stood my ground. And I won. I am 68 years old. That does not make me helpless. It does not mean I am confused. It does not mean I cannot think clearly. I am sharp. I am capable. And now I am very careful about who I trust. If you are listening to this story and you have elderly parents, or if you are older yourself, learn the warning signs of financial exploitation. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not let anyone rush you into signing legal documents. Always get independent legal advice. Tell someone outside the situation what is happening. And remember something important. Age is not the same thing as incompetence. Being in your 60s, 70s, or 80s does not mean you are incapable of managing your life. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Protect yourself. Document everything. And if someone you love tries to exploit you, remember this. Protecting yourself is not betrayal. They betrayed you first. Sometimes I drive past Kevin's old house. I do not stop. I do not slow down. But when I see it, I remember how close I came to losing everything. Then I drive back to my own house. The home Melissa and I built together. The life we worked so hard to create. The independence I fought to protect. And I feel grateful. Grateful for Michael Chen's warning call. Grateful for Carlos's advice. Grateful for Linda Porter and Detective Kim. And grateful that I spent a lifetime as an engineer who learned one important rule. Always check the calculations before trusting the result. If this story helps you understand how these scams work, share it with someone else. There might be someone out there right now doubting themselves, wondering if they are overreacting, wondering if they are being paranoid. They are not. They are protecting themselves. And sometimes, that protection is the difference between losing everything and keeping the life you built. Stay alert, trust your instincts, and never let anyone make you feel foolish for being careful. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you must watch the most carefully.